Good day and welcome to Champs Online Tutorial. This is Tutor Falarami, and in today's class we'll be discussing the concept of gas laws in physics, whereby we'll be breaking down Boyle's law, Charles' law, pressure law, and also our general gas law. And we'll also be solving questions with tips and tricks to solving question in JAMB Don't be shocked that questions can be solved in just seconds. So when you see people telling you that they will solve gas law questions in 30 seconds, yes, they are right. It's not magic. We'll show you how it's done. Alright, let's get into the class. Now, the first thing you ought to remember is that your Boyle's law, if you state your Boyle's law, remember that your temperature is what? Your T is constant. So in this case, if I'm to write this as an equation, then I will have my my PV, right? Because my pressure is inversely proportional to what? My volume, provided that temperature is constant. Then here I am having that my pressure is constant. My pressure is constant in this case. So if my pressure is constant in this case, then I should be having what? P over my pressure is constant, right? That will be V over T. Do you understand? Because this is direct proportion. That means my volume is directly proportional to this. So, and in also my pressure law, my volume is constant in this case. So in this case, I would be having my P over T. So this is where all your formula comes from. When you have P1 V1 is equals to P2 V2, this is the common thing you know. Then here you also have V1 over T1 is equals to V2 over T2, right? These are the common formulas. Then also in this place you have what? P1 over T1 is equals to P2 over T2. Yes. So those are just the formula to use. But in this general gas law, this is the combination of three of these laws: Boyle's, Charles, and pressure law. I believe this is clear. So when you combine these three, that is where you come about your general gas law, which now states that what? You now have your P1 V1 over T1 is equals to what? P2 V2 over T2. So this is just the formula. We won't take too much time into stating all the laws one by one, but I believe with this breakdown you should understand how we arrived at this formula. So now we'll go into questions and I'll show you some tricks to solving the questions. Before we take the first question, let me just quickly tell you a trick concerning the formulas. Always remember, since your Boyle's law is what? Inverse proportion, that the pressure is inversely proportional to the volume. So in this case, if the pressure of this increase, the volume will have to decrease. So you can just look out in your questions that, okay, if this pressure increase, then there has to be a decrease in volume, right? And these ones, they are directly proportional. So if this increase, right? If volume increase, temperature increase, and if volume decreases, temperature will also decrease. Do you get that? Now let's try a question. The question states, a gas of volume 700 centimeter at a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius has a pressure of 600. So we have the first thing, the parameters. We have our V1 to be 700 millimeter mercury. We also have 700 centimeter cube. We also have our T1 to be 30 degrees Celsius. We have our T2. Our T2 is 47 degrees Celsius. Our P1 is 606 millimeter mercury, and we have our what's the last thing there? So we have to look for our P2, given that our V2 is equals to 400. Why? Because in the question it was stated that our volume is actually reduced by 300 centimeter cube. So that means our final volume will be what? 400 centimeter cube. Alright? So in this case now, this type of question, even without solving, I can still guess the answer. From my options, I have 1120 millimeter mercury, I have 6000, so just look at your question and you can get your answer. Now let's narrate this question. The question states that now if you are trying to work with the laws, there is inverse proportion between your what? Pressure and your volume. and in this case your initial volume is higher than your final volume. So what should happen to the pressure? That means if my pressure in the initial is low, then my pressure in the final has to be what? High, right? That is inverse proportion. So in this case I can even say, since this one is coming down by 300, then this thing, like this is almost times 2, so this thing should increase in almost another times 2. Do you understand? So this alone can make me choose an answer without solving, but just for clarity's sake, let's solve it. So we have P1 V1 over T1 equals to what? P2. So solving this question in this case now, we can just convert our degree Celsius now to Kelvin, which this will be plus 273. So if you add this to 273, that should be like around this should be like 373 or something. Oh sorry, I said 373, 303, 303 Kelvin. And if we do the same thing for this side, we add 273 to our 47, that should give us 320 Kelvin. So now we've converted all this to Kelvin. Now let's quickly solve this. If we impute all our values, our P1 is what? 606, multiplied by our V1, which is now what? 700, over our T1, which our T1 is now what? 303 Kelvin, is equal to what? Our P2. Our P2 is what we are looking for, unknown. Then we have multiplied by our V2, which is now what? 300 and oh sorry, V2 is now 400. Then we have our T2, which is what? 320. By cross multiplication, we can now change the formula. Alright, so by cross multiplication we can change the formula to become what? If we have this, in this case, we can just say 600 divided by our 606 multiplied by 700 all over 303 Kelvin is equals to what? P2 multiplied by 400 all over 320. I believe this is very much clear. By cross multiplication now, we can have our final value to be what? We will just have to, rearrange them by saying 606 multiplied by 700 multiplied by 320. Then all of them is equal to, now remember you are making P2 the subject of formula. So this case now, you have what? 303 multiplied by 400, which P2 is now your subject. So by cross multiplication and your final division, your answer should be 1120 millimeter mercury. Now you can see I guessed right, because I told you that time that what? Since your volume is decreasing from what is reducing from what? 700 to 400, then your pressure has to increase up. So since your pressure was 606, your pressure went up to what? 1120. I believe this has proven the trick, and I hope you've learned one or two from this video. Share to any Jambari that you know, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.